Digital Circus. With just one chapter it would become a quite popular series, which is why many theories would be made, among which would be religious ones like everything had to do with Jesus saving them and so on, which is quite interesting. But among many this is one which says that Crane is an imposter, that there was a first Crane which would be developed by the developer Jax, who was evidently one of the team since he is not affected in the same way by the rules of the world as the others. I would have created it like this. We would go to the beginning of everything, when they were just working on making the prototype of the game, which was going to be called Digital Circus. This prototype cost many of their jobs since the company was investing a lot of budget in this project. After many days, the employee who was in charge of AI, named Jack, would be almost completing all the missing parts. Everything would go very well, but due to the number of layoffs, the company workers also telling them that they should add more new things in order to reach under index in the video game stage, Jack could finish the parts, and while testing them he would see that they worked very well, all of them exactly one, and this was the presenter of the circus. His name would be Abel, since the game would have the secret story in which elements of this religion would be touched on. Abel was a thin man who wore a suit, only had one eye, would always smile, which is why the staff would call him the Laughing One. This one had the error of not following some dialogues into others was not good, since if they released the game like this it would be a failure and everyone on the team would lose their jobs. Jack would try to fix the problem, but he was unsuccessful. Another member of the team called Ginger would try help him, but he had the same problem as Jack. So the development time passed and Jack couldn't fix the bugs in the AI, so he decided to delete it and do it again. This is how he did it, and apparently Abel would not be deleted, and he would also start having a conscience. He began to control the game, to make jokes with the code to the team, and to create things that were not in the game. Sometimes he had very strange behaviors with the player, making the players, who were children, do all kinds of things. Disgusting. One day these were found recreating the famous Days video. In addition, the elements of the game became distorted every time Abel passed by. Jack would gather the team and tell them to all help him. They would try to fix Abel's problems, but without success. They would also discover new quite disturbing problems, which were about Abel donating donations in red rooms to do what he asked for. After many attempts to fix it, he would not show progress. No one could explain how this had happened. He showed more intelligence than the one he had. He also showed them photos of them, his classmates and others, and made fun of them by burning them in the digital game. Abel was uncontrollable, making more and more delays with his mistakes, which at this point were quite a few. He tried again. Deleted, but Abel's code was incorruptible. Abel had taken over the game, and this was not only bad for them but for anyone, since he was literally a Sneshka and being with the power to manipulate anything digital. It is known that Abel did not only manipulated the game, but also left it through the phones. He spent about 2 weeks harassing one of the team. He sent things to the bosses which made them angry, and would make that team put more effort into erasing the game. Abel, in thinking about how to redo everything again, since the game had to be released in less than a month and Abel had corrupted almost all of its files, Jack told him that he had a plan that was only to distract Abel, and that he would inject a virus to eliminate it once and for all. The plan was made, but Jack made a mistake, and this was that he did not think that the brain would be smart enough to know that. So what he did was throw the coffee maker at him, disconnecting it with this, but it is still moving still. Then at one point one of the team would take a chair and start destroying all the computers. He would be fired, but Abel would be arrested in the end, although Abel would return at night and threaten Jack, telling him that he would go for his daughter. The rest of the team would think a new plan while continuing to work on the project. Abel would turn off the lights and play with them, showing them grotesque images of accidents and so on, until Abel would tell them to look behind them, and when they turned around they would see a group of armed men who would distract them. 3 of these, one of the girls would be taken as an additional reward. Then Jack would leave the place and Ginger would follow him. Both would know that Abel, he was watching them, so they would try to speak in code so that he would not listen. After planning a plan in which the failure was minor, they would decide to act the next day. The next day they would be surprised that Abel used the internet to ruin their lives and put everyone in the company and themselves in prison. It is known that he was succeeding since the police would begin to investigate the staff, and upon discovering that it was they would try to think of something to be able to stop it, but all the plans they made, these failed. Then the case was filed and several managers and leaders of the digital circus team were taken away. That was until Abel would begin to pay him to go after the team's relatives. Jack would then use a USB memory to attack Abel, and apparently it would work, since they would be artificial intelligence which would destroy Abel in pieces. But not everything would be good, since after the digital circus project was finished, the news would be given to the team that it would be delayed again, since a company would ask them to use special equipment which would transmit you directly to the video game, like VR chat, although more immersive. What they were never told is that this product instantly left whoever used it in a coma. After the first member of the staff remaining there at the workplace, those on the team would be informed that they had to continue working. Some tried to leave, but they would be silenced, since the company could not allow itself to fall into more scandals, since they affected its sales, and since they were so serious they could close it permanently. The team would continue working, and the corpses and comas that remained were more frequent. That's how it all went until they had to put on the helmets to calibrate them. They didn't know that they were going to lose their memory, or that the game wasn't going to work well, since this looked like any VR game, and what's more, that's what the helmet looked like. He copied their personality and put it into the game, so each one put on the helmet and Jack would be the third. Upon entering, he would not be affected by the system thanks to Crane, since he recognized him as his creator, but even so he could not find the way out. Like the rest,